Special thanks to Horizon Therapeutics for sponsoring today's Special Fathers Network Dad to Dad podcast. Horizon Therapeutics believes that science and compassion must work together to transform lives. That's why they work tirelessly to research, develop, and bring forward medicines for people living with rare and rheumatic diseases. Discover more about Horizon Therapeutics' mission to boldly change the lives of the patients and communities at horizontherapeutics.com.
My dad was my everything. He was always there for me, and he was my biggest fan in everything that I did. I can't think of a time that he wasn't there, that he wasn't present, and, I'm a product of my raising. I've been able to get through the things in my life because of him.
That's our guest this week, Andy McCall. Andy is a career teacher and coach who has 3 children, including a daughter who, sad to say, passed away at age 2 due to severe special needs and cancer. Andy's written a book about his life called Pigtails and Steel, and it's available now on Amazon. But we'll hear the story of Andy's life, the highs and the lows, all on this Special Fathers Network Dad to Dad podcast. Here's your host, David Hirsch.
Hi, and thanks for listening to the Dad to Dad podcast, Fathers Mentoring Fathers of Children with Special Needs, presented by the Special Fathers Network.
The Special Fathers Network is a dad-to-dad mentoring program for fathers raising children with special needs. Through our personalized matching process, new fathers with special needs children connect with mentor fathers in a similar situation. It's a great way for dads to support dads. To find out more, go to 21stcenturydads.org.
And if you're a dad looking for help or would like to offer help, we'd be honored to have you join our closed Facebook group. Please go to facebook.com/groups and search Dad to Dad.
And now let's listen to this conversation between Andy McCall and David Hirsch.
I'm thrilled to be talking today with Andy McCall of Greeneville, Tennessee, who's a 5th grade teacher and a father of 3, including daughter who passed away at 2 due to severe special needs and cancer. Andy, thank you for taking the time to do a podcast interview for the Special Fathers Network.
I'm honored to be here. This is definitely some powerful things to talk about our stories.
You and your wife, Ellen, have been married for 8 years and are the proud parents of 3 2-year-old twins, Scout and Maisie, and older sister, Penelope, who had severe special needs, as well as cancer, who sadly passed away just before her 2nd birthday. Let's start with some background. Tell me, where did you grow up? Tell me something about your family.
I was born and raised in Greeneville, Tennessee, a small town in northeast Tennessee, and really close to all my family. Being an only child in a small town, definitely very close to my family and my mom and dad, for sure, who just live like a mile down the road. So that small town world here.
So out of curiosity, what did your dad do for a living?
My dad was a teacher at the beginning of his career, and he ended up ending his career selling school buses. So he was at school and then sold school buses, and he just recently retired.
Okay. And how would you characterize or describe your relationship with your dad?
My dad was my everything. He was always there for me, and he was my biggest fan in everything that I did. I can't think of a time that he wasn't there, that he wasn't present, and I'm a product of my raising. I've been able to get through the things in my life because of him.
That's a very strong testimonial. Thanks for sharing. I'm sort of curious to know, when you think about your dad, if there's an important takeaway or two that come to mind, something that resonates with you, something that you've tried to emulate as a dad yourself.
For me, he always put family first. It was always about us. It was about my mom and I since I was, only child. And everything he did was out of love and love for us, and wanted everything that, if we wanted it, he did everything he could to get us that, or, provide for us. And I think being that provider and just showing me, what it means to put your family first, that always has stuck with me.
Excellent. So what I remember is that you went to Marshall College, you played football. I don't remember what you majored in. And I was wondering, where did your career take you?
So, yeah, it was Mars Hill College. A lot of people get that. A lot of people get Marshall and Mars Hill mixed up. But we're a little bit smaller than Marshall. So, yeah, it was Mars Hill College, which is now Mars Hill University. So, yeah, I graduated with a degree in elementary education. Being a male in elementary education, I was usually the only male in my class. I just felt natural in that environment with kids and working with kids. And it luckily brought me back to the same school that I went to elementary school with. So I graduated from Mars Hill. I came back here to Greeneville. I was lucky enough to get a job and actually teach in the same classroom that I was in when I was in elementary school and work for the same principal that I had while I was in elementary school. So thankful I acted right and turned in on my homework.
That's fabulous. It must have felt a little bit like deja vu.
It was. It's like I got to sit in the teacher's chair. I got to see it from a different angle there. But it has been great. Started out in 5th grade, and now, being a 2nd grade teacher and still in the same school has been amazing. So it's being able to make an impact on the place that made an impact on you really means a lot to me.
That's fabulous. And from what I remember, you've done some coaching as well.
Yeah, I was 12 years as a high school coach at Greeneville High School. We had some really great teams, fortunate enough to win 4 state championships in that short time and runner-up for 1. But more importantly, getting to see during those 12 years all these young men grow up and be a part of their lives, and seeing them graduate high school, graduate college, careers, being invited to their weddings, that's the good stuff right there, is being able to be a part of their lives and know that I had some meaning in their life beyond maybe a football play or two, or maybe a few sprints I had to make them do. So,
well, speaking of weddings, I'm sort of curious to know, how did you and Ellen meet?
Ellen and I met at the most unlikely place in the world. Our school system does a field day. So elementary school field day, when all the elementary schools come together and, you do tug of war and races and things like that. So imagine a hot, sweaty afternoon with thousands of elementary school kids. I was, a teacher at one school. She was actually a school nurse in another one. And through one of my best friends that was at her school, we met, started talking, and just sort of went from there. Not your most romantic place to meet, but it'll always be special to us for sure.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Well, let's switch gears and talk about special needs, first on a personal level and then beyond.
So Penelope had many different special needs. Most of them were neurological. She had polymicrogyria, which caused seizures and infantile spasms. What we came to find out, and what we've pretty sure narrowed down, was Schenzel-Gideon syndrome. And, we didn't get that final exact diagnosis because she did pass away very quickly during all that. But, all signs pointed to that, which comes along with a lot of neurological and muscular disabilities. Okay.
So at what age was that?
Well, we found out her spasms came out between 6 and 8 months, and, we didn't really know what they were. And then we got the infantile spasms diagnosis early on, which after, all special needs dads know, you have so many doctor's appointments and scans, and that's where we went with the polymicrogyria from there on.
Okay. What was your first reaction, if you can remember way back when?
The world stopped. When I heard it, I remember exactly where I was standing in that doctor's office, and the words, they just kept repeating in my head. And I didn't know exactly what it was. I didn't understand it, but from her tone, from her way of saying it, I knew it was bad. And I don't know how I handled it. I don't know if it was good, bad, or what I looked like, but I just remember it's almost like everything stopped for that moment when I heard that.
So it took a while to digest what was going on. And from there, how did things proceed?
From there, it was a lot of learning very fast because, being a teacher, a football coach, I didn't have a lot of medical background. Thankfully, Ellen had that medical background and got us through a lot of that. And she helped it, like many, nurses, she helped it make sense to me. And then I did a lot of studying, and we went from there. It was a lot of a lot of medications, a lot of scans, a lot of watching, a lot of sleepless nights. And we made that journey all the way through pharmaceuticals to getting her off pharmaceuticals and using CBD oil for treating her seizures and going that route. It was a whirlwind, but then again, it seemed like it went on forever too, because you were always on watch and on call for what was going on.
Was there some meaningful advice that you got that helped you navigate the situation, either initially or partway through?
I think it was from some other families that were going through with special needs and seizures, and it was a lot of trust. Trust was a big thing. It was, trust your instincts and trust your doctors and trust, because we don't have control in these times. That's a lot of things. As a dad, you're supposed to have control during these. And when you don't have control, you question everything. And I think somebody one time told me, you might not have control, but you have the control to trust what you think is right. And you make those decisions and you stand by them for your family.
Yeah, well, I've heard it often said that you have to be your child's best advocate. And, you want to take all the information in from whatever sources, doctors, nurses, PTs, OTs, STs, internet, wherever. But you have to trust your gut, right, to do the best thing for your child. And when things just aren't right, or it just doesn't feel like you're where you want to be, need to be, or should be, it's not inappropriate, certainly these days, to get a second or a third opinion and just try to figure out what's going to work, right? Because it's usually not one thing.
Definitely. And that was a big deal for us. And especially going from pharmaceuticals to CBD to treat her seizures, that was one of those family decisions that we just had to trust was right and try to give, like we all do, try to give our children the best quality of life we can.
So not to focus on the negative, but just to be real, what were some of the bigger challenges that you and Ellen faced?
As parents, it was the unknown. We didn't know what was coming next, or you have all those questions of, is she going to be able to do this? When you get those diagnoses, and I mean, like you said, being real, your dreams are shattered a little bit. You have all these dreams of what you want to happen, and your new normal, your new reality is these things aren't going to happen. And that was hard for me, I know, because I didn't understand all the medical at first, so I didn't understand what was going on, so I had to educate myself. And once we got past that, it was just going from a parent to a caregiver in some ways. You're constantly caring, you're constantly dealing with meds and feedings and changing this and that. And like you said, going to every specialist in the world that you didn't even know existed at that time. And it was just that constant that I think we never felt like we could just sit back and enjoy Penelope and being her parents, and being her dad. And once we realized that and talked about that and settled down a little bit, we did that. And we lived her life and enjoyed every second of it. But that definitely at the first, that was hard.
Well, thanks for sharing. Usually when I ask about turning points, it's a turning point for the positive. But I know that one of the turning points that Penelope encountered, you and Ellen encountered, was her cancer diagnosis. And I'm wondering how that transpired and how did things go from there?
We always said if Penelope never got a common cold or anything, but if it was special or something, that's what she got. And, sadly, like you said, the turning point was cancer. And we woke up one day, it was a Saturday morning, and we noticed that her legs weren't working. And her legs were flaccid. And, we didn't know if it was the multitude of diagnoses. Was it another UTI? Was it another something? Did she have a seizure and something go numb? All these things were going through our head. And so we go to the doctor. We go to our local children's hospital, get her checked out. They really couldn't find anything the first day or so. And I went back to school on that Monday because I knew I had to go to work. And that's when we found out, and they came in, that she had a tumor in her brain at the base of her brainstem, and that was going down and metastasizing down her spinal column, which has caused her lower body paralysis. And what we came to find out was it was a super aggressive brain tumor, and it ended up being a stage 4 medulloepithelioma. And like I said, it was metastasizing down her spinal column and creating little tumors throughout her body.
So was that actually what took her life at the end, or?
That was. It was, like I said, it was very aggressive. And from the time that we were at our local children's hospital and even flew to Memphis, where we were at Le Bonheur Hospital and at St. Jude, it had already grown in that week's time. And that's when we found out that we didn't have many options left, and there weren't many treatment options. So that, like I said, Penelope never could do anything half. It was one of the most aggressive ones that I had ever read about or seen.
Yeah, well, that's the sad reality, is that it shortened her life dramatically. And I don't even know if there is a silver lining, other than maybe she didn't suffer for an extended period of time. But it sounds sad to say that. I apologize if I've offended you by saying that, but it seemed very abrupt. That's my observation.
It was, and definitely didn't, we didn't expect that at all. I went back to work when we got the news. That's not what we expected by any means. But in her short life and having to deal with the things that she did, I am glad that she didn't have to fight a long cancer battle, because, I don't know if her little body could have done that, because she was fighting every day. And, not that you want it to be quick, but if it is something as severe as a stage 4 cancer, I'm honored and blessed to be her dad for the time we did have, but I'm also glad that she didn't suffer for that long time.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. I'm sort of curious to know what impact Penelope's situation had on your marriage, or maybe the rest of your family, right? Your extended family.
It definitely brought us closer, which isn't what happens with a lot of families. And, being a special needs father to begin with, that can already be hard and strain on a marriage. Now you add being bereaved parents to the mix, and that creates a whole nother world of difficulties. Ellen and I, she says it too, we're sort of proud how we got through it and how we got through it together, and how our family handled it. Everybody handles grief differently. Everybody handles situations differently. But as a family, Penelope brought us all together and continues to help us fight the good fight, as we say sometimes, for whatever it is, whether it be for St. Jude or epilepsy awareness, or even just, helping out families that need it, because we know what it's like to be in that situation. So we had that empathy for those families that are going through it. And I think we all see it through a different lens now.
So I'm thinking about supporting organizations that you or your family have relied on, either for Penelope directly or for your family overall. And I'm wondering which groups come to mind.
The first one's definitely St. Jude. You never want to have to go to a place like St. Jude, because you don't want that to be part of your life or your child's life, but you're sure glad that a place like that exists. I my only part that I knew about were the commercials or giving, $1 here and there, but to actually receive the care, not to ever receive a bill, and to work with some of the best doctors and nurses and staff that are out there firsthand, completely changed my whole outlook on things. And that's why I work for them now. as a volunteer and as a parent educator and a member of the Quality Life Steering Council with what we do. And they will forever be part of the McCall family and Penelope's legacy.
Well, that's fabulous. Are there any other organizations that played an instrumental role or groups?
Sort of the full circle. Carrie's Heart Foundation, which is local to us, they are a foundation based on parents set it up for their little girl, and they lost their little girl, and they have helped thousands of families with everything from financial needs to transportation to carrying bags to whatever for people that were in the hospital. And when we were in the hospital, we actually were sitting there one day and received one of these carrying bags. They just had some things for parents, and it really touched me that there was somebody out there that was thinking about the families along with the child. And the more we got to look through what they were doing, we looked them up on their website, and they're just there to help people. There's some great people that are there to help however they can for families in need, being in the hospital and being a special needs parents, having a medically fragile child. You spend a lot of time in the hospital, which causes a lot of problems medically, financially, situationally, and they have been there to help families, for many years. And full circle with that is now we've been able to help them and donate with them, and which brings me to my book club. And my men's book club just recently put together a men's book basket for their online auction to help raise funds for them so they can continue to help families. And most people just heard men's book club and said, yeah, that's not normal. But my men's book club, the League of Ordinary Men, they have been more instrumental than they know in helping me get through things. And we're just an eclectic group of like-minded men that wanted more out of life. We help each other. We hold each other accountable, but we help each other be, better fathers and husbands and men, and try to be great role models in the community. We're, like the name says, we're just ordinary men. We're teachers, lawyers, construction workers, just normal men. They're just trying to be better. And when you look at us, if you ever look us up, the League of Ordinary Men, we have to prove to people sometimes that, yes, we actually do read. Yes, we're actually a group. A lot of them are like, they've helped me with my grief journey and raising money for St. Jude and Penelope's memory, working with local schools and literacy campaigns, and just trying to be, role models for the community. So they have definitely helped us out more than anything.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a real blessing. They have been to you, and it sounds like you are to one another. And with all due respect, I think you need to change the name of the group to a League of Extraordinary Men, because that's actually what you are. I know that it sounds humbler to call yourselves ordinary men. And I think you do have a couple members of the ZZ Tops in your group, too.
For sure. They some pictures you'll see, and that's funny you mentioned that with their long beards. They actually just got together and said, you know what, we're going to cut our beards and raise some money for St. Jude. And we set a small goal, and they blew that out of the water and raised thousands of dollars for St. Jude just to cut their beards. And being in the South, that's a big thing. Got to having your beard there. So for them to do that in Penelope's memory just shows you, what men getting together can accomplish and achieve, together.
That's fabulous. Well, thanks again for sharing. You made passing reference earlier to CBD, and I'm wondering if that's played an important role or not really.
Oh, it definitely has. And we were part of the families that fought for the CBD legalization bill in Tennessee, along with one very special family that we have, another special needs family here in town. And, it brought awareness to what we go through every day. And, the CBD community that we were fighting for was getting CBD as an option for kids dealing with these seizures and infantile spasms and all these, and just having the option. And it connected us with many special needs families throughout Tennessee and really throughout the United States. And that's always been special to us that we could have been part of that with our best friends, Logan and Stacy and their little girl, Josie, and being able to help out families, because nobody chooses this challenge and nobody chooses this life that we've lived, but it's how we use that challenge, I think, as a special needs family, a special needs dad, and now me as a bereaved dad. That's what makes us or breaks us. We never let Penelope's diagnosis be her definition. And throughout things like CBD and St. Jude and her legacy with the book club and being able to do things with Carrie's Heart Foundation, and even just in our community, being able to continue that legacy, that's what defines us.
Yeah, well, I think it's fabulous. Thanks again for sharing. So let's switch gears and talk about a couple of other things. You were blogging for a certain period of time, and that turns out to be a self-published book entitled Pigtails and Steel. So what's the backstory on that?
So Pigtails and Steel came from things that, I associated with Penelope. Pigtails were my favorite thing that Ellen put her hair up in. I never could do it. They were either sideways, lopsided. Oh, they looked terrible. But that was the best thing. Seeing Penelope in pigtails was just melted my heart. And, every time I saw her in pigtails, it made me forget there for a second that she had special needs or had all these bad things. And I just saw her for who she was. And I picked Steele because that's what, we as dads are supposed to be. We're supposed to be that foundation and that support for our children and our families, our spouses, whoever. So Pigtails and Steel just sort of came together in one of those writing moments that I had.
So from what I remember is that you started doing this just to get the thoughts out of your mind, right? Putting them in a blog. And you posted them, and did you have a following, or was it for the benefit of other family members that you were sharing updates? Again, how did it all transpire?
So I had to find a way to get all these thoughts out of my head. And we started with when we got Penelope's cancer diagnosis. And, I had everything in my head and I had to find a way to get it out. So I'd been reading and I'd see people post blogs and I really didn't know much about it. But I knew that after the first time that I typed that paragraph out, how much better I felt just getting it out. And I made a few. I just, created a free one and sort of wrote them, and I didn't share them with anything. And Ellen and I talked about it, and she goes, "You should share it and just share it to your Facebook. Maybe somebody will read it, and maybe, somebody will know what we're going through." And it sort of went like wildfire from there. People were reading my thoughts, and where I wasn't really good at the first in communicating how I felt, or, a lot of people didn't know how to talk to me about things or even what I was thinking about this whole situation. I put it out there and just put my thoughts at the time. And it only helped me. It helped my family. It helped Ellen. It helped some other people going through this. And like I said, I kept going till about a year after Penelope died. And just as something happened and I needed to deal with it, I just typed it out. And sometimes that was at 1 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, middle of the day. It just, when it happened, it happened.
Yeah, well, I really enjoyed reading the book, Pigtails and Steel. And from what I remember, you have not reread these, right?
I have not.
They went from your blog into the book, self-published, and you're not looking back, which I admire, the discipline that goes along with that. I suspect that maybe months, years, whenever down the road, it might be additionally therapeutic for you to go back and see where you were, right? Just to see how far you've come since those days. And if you'll allow me, there's a few excerpts I'd like to read, and just to get your additional thoughts. I don't know that it's important, but page 78, you wrote, "A father is supposed to protect his daughter, and I can't do that. I've not failed at it. I just can't. Feeling helpless is what hurts the most."
It was, because when you become a dad, that's your first instinct is, this is my little girl, and I'm going to protect her, and I'm going to do everything that I can. And going back to my dad, your family's first. And that was the hardest thing, I think, for me to deal with as a special needs dad, as a dad with a child with cancer. And now where I am in my grief journey is I still struggle with it a little bit, is I didn't have control and I couldn't protect her. But that's part of my journey, is learning to accept that and work with that. And that's why I'm here, honored to be here and talk about our story, that, other dads I know are feeling it. We all feel it. But being able to talk about it and surrounding yourself with other men or other families that understand it, that gives you some power back and gives you some of that control back that we lose in these situations.
Let's talk about Dads of Steele. How'd you get involved with that group? What is that group, and who do they serve anyway?
So that was, it was just by chance. I think it was on Instagram or Facebook. I had followed them. I think it was through Pigtails of Steel, and I saw Dads of Steele searching one day. And, I saw they were just a group of men highlighting men and being good fathers. And then I read into the story that Dave Steele had lost his daughter. And, I can't remember if I messaged him or he messaged me, and we just sort of connected. We had that. We were dads who lost a daughter, and we connected instantly, and it's like we knew each other forever. And it's sort of gone from there, and now we work with them, and I'm part of a little Sunday morning bereaved dad group that we all meet and talk and try to help each other through this life that we live now.
So how many men are actually involved in Dads of Steele?
Well, the Dads of Steele community is worldwide, and on Instagram and Facebook, you look at it and there are people from everywhere, and it's based out of Chicago, but like you said, I'm in Tennessee, and our grief group, we have 5 to 7 men that meet regularly, and even one from the Netherlands, and Robert is amazing. So Robert, if you're listening, I appreciate you. And so we feel like we're a small community, and nobody chooses to be part of this group, especially the grief side of Dads of Steele. But we are doing some powerful work and getting ready to do some even more powerful work together.
Yeah, well, thank you again for sharing. So I'm sort of curious to know, what role has spirituality played?
Spirituality was a hard one. I remember holding Penelope during some of her seizures, and as she's having a seizure, crying out, and whether it was prayer or frustration, saying, just give it to me. I'll take the seizures, take them away from her. And, you go through the bargaining and the dismissal of all faith whatsoever. And then you gain faith, and then you lean on faith, and then you lose it again. And sometimes that's before breakfast. And it's a journey. You don't want to experience any of this by any means, but if spirituality plays a role for you, which, that's where I was grounded in, and, part of my whole life and part of my upbringing, it definitely helped get me through. And it definitely molded me into the man I am today, with how I believe, what I believe, and what I think of when I see another dad going through this, and maybe how I can help him.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing, and I really appreciate your transparency and authenticity. It's not something you can just read about. I think it's one of those things that has to be experienced, and I'm not speaking from experience. I'm just saying my observation is that you've got to go through the baptism by fire, if you will, to really be able to put it all in perspective. So I'm thinking about advice now, and I'm wondering if there's any advice you can share with dads who are either raising a child with special needs or going through the grieving process of losing a child.
I think the biggest thing that has helped me is this communication. It's finding a group, and for me, it was a group of men like the Special Fathers Network and this Dad to Dad podcast and the Dads of Steele and St. Jude and my men's book club. It was finding those outlets and surrounding yourself with people that understand you or people that want to understand you. And you can't do this alone. You can't walk the life of a special needs father alone. You definitely can't walk the life of being a bereaved father alone. There's no way. Tried it. And if you've seen my book a couple of times, that leads you down some roads that there is no end. There is no light on that path. And it's hard for us. It's hard for men to talk about our feelings or even to open up or even to say, okay, I'm going to join this Dads of Steele grief group. That was a big step. And that was a big step for me. And I'm one that at St. Jude talks about this all the time as a parent educator. But once you take that step and you feel that weight lift off of your shoulders because these other men understand you and have these same feelings, and you start to feel normal because we all know what goes through our heads. We all know those thoughts and feelings about not being able to protect our child, or how are we even going to pay the bills this month, or, I don't even know what this next diagnosis is, or, we think we're the only ones having them, but we're not. And the sooner we realize that and the sooner we put ourselves out there, that's when this new normal that we have encountered starts to become a little lighter, and we can help and we can navigate it.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you. I'm sort of curious to know, why is it that you've agreed to be a mentor father as part of the Special Fathers Network?
I see the power in it. I see the power in men coming together to help each other and to become, whether it's a better father or just to make it a better situation. I see the need. I see the power in what we're doing here. And, just the short time that I have been part of the Dads of Steele Grief Group and the Special Fathers Network, and seeing everything that comes together when we all come together and talk about this. My only wish was I was here sooner. That's my only wish, is I wish I was here sooner.
Yeah, well, thank you again. We're thrilled to have you. Let's give a special shout out to David Steele as well as Don Ranieri at Dads of Steele for helping connect us.
Definitely. They are two amazing men that they make me better. They're great men, and I'm honored to know them and work with them, and can't wait to see where we take all of this.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, as my grandmother used to say. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No, like I said, I'm just honored to be here, and I hope that part of my story, whether it's from this or maybe if somebody picks up my book, or any part of our stories that helps yours, is that's what we're here for. Like I said, man, you can't do this alone. You have to do this together, and that's what we're all here for.
Andy, thank you for your time and many insights. As a reminder, Andy is just one of the dads who's part of the Special Fathers Network, a mentoring program for fathers raising a child with special needs. If you'd like to be a mentor father or are seeking advice from a mentor father with a similar situation of your own, please go to 21stcenturydads.org. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the Special Fathers Network Dad to Dad podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. As you probably know, the 21st Century Dads Foundation is a 501c3 not-for-profit organization, which means we need your help to keep our content free to all concerned. Please consider making a tax-deductible contribution. I would really appreciate your support. Andy, thanks again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And thank you for listening to the Dad to Dad podcast, presented by the Special Fathers Network. The Special Fathers Network is a dad-to-dad mentoring program for fathers raising children with special needs. Through our personalized matching process, new fathers with special needs children connect with mentor fathers in a similar situation. It's a great way for fathers to support fathers. Go to 21stcenturydads.org.
And if you're a dad looking for help or would like to offer help, we would be honored to have you join our closed Facebook group. Please go to facebook.com/groups and search Dad to Dad. Also, please be sure to register for the Special Fathers Network bi-weekly Zoom calls held on the first and third Tuesdays of every month. Lastly, we're always looking to share interesting stories. If you'd like to share your story or know of a compelling story, please send an email to david@21stcenturydads.org.
The Dad to Dad podcast was produced by Couch Audio for the Special Fathers Network. Thanks again to Horizon Therapeutics, who believe that science and compassion must work together to transform lives. That's why they work tirelessly to research, develop, and bring forward medicines for people living with rare and rheumatic diseases. Discover more about Horizon Therapeutics at horizontherapeutics.com.